Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to In Defense of the Hays Code. I am your host, Ellis Womack. This is your host, Zach Anderson, and the film we are covering today is The Best Years of Our Lives. Now, ladies and gentlemen, those of you that have seen it before know generally we talk a little bit about the film, reach a point in some of the films, and I go, hey, spoiler territory, click off now if you haven't seen the film. This one is going to be different, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen the film, turn around. I hate to put it this way, ladies and gentlemen, but if you haven't seen the film, you're not welcome in this episode until you do. You are trespassing, ladies and gentlemen,
Agreed.
because this whole thing is going to be spoilers. We cannot talk about this film without going into spoilers, and I would not want your first experience in this film to be us talking about our experiences with this film. This is a movie
Agreed.
you have to go out and experience for yourself. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We will be here with all sorts of thoughts about this movie once you've seen it. But I'm sure it's streaming on Amazon Prime, or you can find a physical copy. I know you can find a physical copy. I own a physical copy, just how he got his physical copy.
That's right.
So you can find this movie somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. TCM runs it every once in a while. This is not sponsored by TCM yet. But so just find a copy, ladies and gentlemen. Watch the copy. It's 3 hours, but trust me, it's a 3 hours well spent. And then once you've seen the movie, once you've taken it in, and you formed your own opinions of the movie, come back to this episode and listen to us give our opinions on this movie. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You know where the door is. And now, for those of you that have seen the movie, or those of you that are just now rejoining us after sitting through the 3 hours worth of the movie, for me it was 5 seconds. For you, it will have been several hours. Um, wow, wow. I'll let my co-host here, who just saw the film
For the first time.
for the first time. I've seen it 2 or 3 times. I'll let him take point, and then I will jump in with just points every once in a while because wow.
So, first of all, those of you who are still watching have seen the movie. You weren't ready. I know you weren't ready. Because Ellis warned me, and I still was not ready. He explicitly told me, get some tissues, get ready. Yeah, I was not prepared. It did me zero good to hear the warning, even though I was like, okay, I trust Ellis's views on things. I know he knows what he's talking about when it comes to movies. Everybody watching should already be aware that Ellis knows what he's saying. Still, um, I just finished the movie about maybe 45 minutes ago, and yeah, still shook. Still shook. Um, I think from start to finish. Okay, first of all, I didn't know if it was going to be I didn't know anything about it except that it was old black and white film. Still watched it anyway. But that's pretty much it. And the title of it, "Best Years of Our Lives." Oh, that sounds fun. Um, uh, from from the beginning to the end, I did not know what to expect next. Um, we've talked before about how movies these days are kind of predictable. And that's kind of why we're going back in time and looking at older movies. There's some good movies out now that can give you a surprise. But most of them, they're following the formula. This one was just unexpected at every turn. And yeah, so I haven't said any of the spoilers. Basically, I'm just saying the weightiness of the film was quite shocking.
Mm-hmm.
You meet the three characters that are back from war, and they've all got different stuff going on, different places in their lives, and from once those three get to meet each other, you know, in the plane, they're all trying to get back home. They're back in the States. They're trying to get back home to their hometown. I think one was in the Navy, one was Air Force. There may have been like a
the third was Army. Third was Army.
Army.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they had all had different experiences, but the same experience of war. And so yeah, then we find them coming back to their hometown to readjust, which reminds me of one of the first things that that one of the men said was that he was really concerned about was going home was people trying to rehabilitate him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it starts off just very like real issues for real people right off the bat. And it was all the way through. It was surprising how it did not feel like a movie. It felt like at least a documentary, at most just like you were watching people's lives really unfold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not always the case with films.
No.
So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to dip into spoilers, like you said, the movie from the word go is just because like you said, you're introduced to these three characters. They hear their planes coming up, and they go to pick up their bags, and you notice for the first time that the Navy man, Homer, doesn't have hands. He's got these two sort of naval, like very articulate, but he's got these two hooks on the ends of his arms, and it's just. And again, he's seen it more recently. I'm just going back through, the quote unquote trauma of watching it twice. It punches you in the guts, and it like that is your like in the movie. That's your last warning that hey, this is gonna be a rough movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and for the duration of the movie, I would say Homer, that Navy officer, Navy man, he is the heart and soul of the movie.
Mm.
He doesn't have like the big romantic arc. He has a smaller one, but it's not the main romantic focus. Although we'll get there. But it seems like everything that happens to the other characters sort of involves him in some small way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the first time you see him, he comes up to sign in to get on the plane, and he's got the very old prosthetic arms, like you said, that were like the two claw metallic. Um, uh, and he begins to sign his name on the piece of paper, and the guy behind the counter is like, "Hey, I'll do that for you." And he said, "No, I got it."
Mm-hmm.
And two guys standing there, the one behind the counter, the one next to him, who becomes one of the main characters of the movie. They look at each other, and it's like their throat drops into their chest,
Mm-hmm.
seeing what he's going through. He's just like, yeah, this is the way it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now a little bit of background for this thing. The character, the Navy officer, was initially written to just have very bad PTSD.
Okay.
But then William Wyler, the director,
Yeah.
saw this film. It was like a Navy film about um, rehabilitating soldiers who'd been wounded in war. And it was a documentary talking about this drill sergeant who had lost both of his hands in a um, live mine accident.
Oh wow. Okay.
And that sergeant, that drill sergeant, was the guy who ended up playing Homer.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
Oh man.
He'd never been in a film before. He had never acted before in his life. But like, and for those of you that have seen it, that's you know by now, but that's not movie magic. That's not some sort of wacky prosthetic.
Yeah, I didn't know that until uh, the scene that showed that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just, and I think that's what makes it so real is because it's not an actor playing a role. There are actors in the film, and I'm not disparaging any of them. This is a man that's actually been through something.
Mm.
He actually ended up winning an Oscar for his role in the movie. And
Really?
he's actually the only
Surprise.
person in the history of the Oscars to win 2 Oscars, the same role.
Really? What for?
Well, he had been nominated to win whatever Oscar he ended up getting, but the people in charge figured he was a long shot to win.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to honor him anyway, they came up with this sort of, they were going to give him this award for helping to better the something having to do with like veterans, wounded veterans, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So they gave him that. And later in the night, he actually won the Oscar.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And like I said, this is a man that did not act beforehand and was only in like a couple, one or two made for TV movies decades later.
Mm. So a lot of what we see from him, he's drawing on. Well, most of what we see from him, he's drawing on actual experience.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
And talking about the cast, and we're going to bounce from talking about the film to whatever because this is just how my brain works.
Yeah, man.
Talking about the cast, it is such a good cast.
Man. Yeah. It's like watching. It's not like watching a movie.
Because there's so many scenes in this movie, and this is where I think I'll start talking about scenes, skipping spoilers. There's so many scenes in this movie that are so believable.
Mm.
Like the scene where Al, the army man, comes home and sees his children and then his wife. And Myrna Loy just delivers in this movie.
Yeah, the wife, right?
Right. because
Yeah.
she's on the phone. Because I this is one of those scenes that's stuck in my brain. And yeah, she's talking. I think she trails off. She goes, "I'm sorry, my husband is like." It's like, what? I mean, I'm not sorry. I'm happy. I'm very happy. And she starts crying, and of course, by this point, I'm tearing up, and
Mhm.
that was most of my experience with the movie. Um, and then later, one of my favorite scenes, and this is much later. This is spoiler territory again. I don't know why I keep saying it, but I've already outlined it. When Fred, his name's Fred, the
Mhm.
airman, punches out the guy.
Yo. Yeah.
I mean, that line, the whole I know, the customer is always right, but this one wasn't.
Mhm.
Woo.
Yeah, yeah. That was heavy.
Hmm.
Um yeah, he and the way that he just well, he knew the customer was right as far as he wasn't the one that was going to get in trouble,
Right.
and uh that it was going to be the airman who got fired.
Hmm.
He already knew he was going to get fired.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, yeah, customer's always right, but this guy not
Hmm.
right. Um and it was really cool watching the Navy guy with the prosthetics um watch the airman jump in and deck the guy for him.
Hmm.
Um like there was just a gratefulness
Hmm.
that he had a brother
Yeah.
there.
There's a real brotherly relationship that builds up between those two.
Absolutely, yeah. Whereas with the army man, he was kind of like their dad,
Hmm.
you know, and uh, for better or for worse, he kind of watches over what they're doing. Um, uh, Looking out for them, but then also putting his family first when it comes to his daughter.
Yeah. That's another good scene. The one where the daughter, who's played by the amazing Teresa Wright, is talking to her
So
parents.
good.
And the scene where she declares herself a homewrecker, and oh, y'all wouldn't understand. Y'all are always in love. And then just that whole conversation.
Yeah,
I just there's certain parts of this movie that just live in my brain, won't get out.
yeah. It's an emotional roller coaster of not not just situations, but just of it's emotional roller coaster for us of their emotions
Mhm.
and real life. Like she comes in to their room and she's like, "Yeah, I've got a plan. I'm gonna break up their marriage." And I was like, "Oh man, good grief! Like, what is gonna happen?" And,
Mhm.
and then the parents are like, "Oh, that's your plan, okay?" And the dad like gets real upset, and the mom's is not happy about it, but she's calmer.
Mhm.
Um, which I think is are both proper responses,
Mhm.
to someone to your child coming in and saying that. That's it's like whoa, whoa, whoa. That's your plan? um, Maybe don't.
Mhm.
Um, and then she starts lecturing her parents about how they've never had any heartache, never had any troubles. You wouldn't understand. And the mom's just like, oh, Yeah, we haven't, have we? Sarcastically. And they start just saying, like, I think it was the dad who said, how many times have I said I hated her?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, how many times have I said, I'm leaving or something like that? Like, I don't know if she actually said she was leaving ever, but it was just real fights.
It just now dawned on me. It's like
Yeah.
the absurdity of the daughter talking to her parents. You don't know heartache. It's like, honey, your dad has been gone for who knows how many years. We're never given like when he went over. It's like it's
Right.
been years.
Yeah. They don't know hardship.
Yeah, it's like the way they talk, it's been years because he mentions how much his kids have grown.
Right.
That poor brother gets one piece of toast, one line um to the airman, and vanishes from the film.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually didn't even think about that. It's like, where did he go? He's in
Appa-
school all the time.
yeah, apparently, like the contract with the actor expired, and they just because he had more scenes, but the contract with the actor expired, and they just didn't bother to renew it.
You know what? It's weird. I didn't miss him.
No, I mean he's not necessary. And to me, my only gripe
That's
with this,
weird.
yeah, my only criticism with this film is like, there's a glaring plot hole that the world just ate the brother. He's never seen again.
Or mentioned.
Yeah.
Or mentioned. Like, yeah. You see him when dad comes home and he's there, he's excited, he's talking about what they're learning about in school.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a wild scene as well, just between the dad and the son. The way that the dad understood the war and the way that the son was understanding the war from back home. That was a powerful scene. Very short scene, but very powerful. Talking about the nuclear residual effects, like the son was interested, did you see effects?
Mm-hmm.
The dad didn't really even know to look for it while he was over there. He wasn't aware of what was going on.
Yeah. He shows up in that scene later when the dad is handing out presents, and it's another scene of just total disconnect.
That's the scene. That's exactly the scene I'm talking about.
Okay, I thought they were two separate scenes separated, but it's been a few months since I've seen this movie. So
yeah. No, we're on the same page
okay,
there.
look to him for chronological things, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going off like the residual memories and emotions, pain.
That have solidified in your mind.
Yes.
I mean, how could they not have? I know they will for me forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The scene. We're gonna have to talk about the scene at some point. We'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there. I think I know what you're talking about. Maybe not, but I feel like there's the scene could be referring to several.
Uh-huh.
But I think I know exactly the one you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when he's giving him the present, the souvenirs, the son is kind of like, oh, I don't really know if I want these. It's the way it feels.
Yeah.
He's he just views it like you said, disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Different views on the same things that were happening. And man, how relevant was that then when it came out, and still today?
Mm-hmm.
Like it is just as relevant, the whole movie today, as it was when it came out.
And what I think is really neat, so the scene, the airman, it really plays up the fact that he has PTSD. The scene where he's crashing at their house and he starts having the nightmares about watching the plane go down.
Mm.
This was filmed, made in 1946.
Good grief.
By this point, PTSD, it was known, but it wasn't accepted. It wouldn't be accepted until Audie Murphy helped bring more light to it several years later.
Okay.
Most of the time, like shell shock, PTSD, was almost viewed as cowardice.
Man.
So to see them, most of the films at the time, anything with like John Wayne or any World War II movie was more big and bad and bombastic and hoorah, look at us. But for this movie to have like that vulnerable scene
Mm,
of him reliving those nightmares,
yeah.
um, that to me, that is what's so impressive and incredible about this film. Is like you said, it's timeless, but it's timeless in a way that it was groundbreaking for 1946.
Oh man. I mean, that was directly right at I mean,
Mm-hmm.
right on the heels of it taking place.
Right.
And like you said, it with such a negative view of anyone who had any kind of problems afterwards. For them to just dive headfirst into some of the most in-depth horrors that and I'm speaking about this as a civilian.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't know the horrors like veterans and active duty do and have, but that we know more about now.
Mm-hmm.
Diving into those horrors and things that we know more about now and that are more prevalent. Yeah, that was taking a chance.
Mm-hmm. It paid off.
Yeah.
Because
Did it back then too?
oh yeah,
You did mention one guy. I mean the Navy man
Mhm.
winning 2 Oscars, but how was it received?
it won at least one Oscar. I know it won an Oscar. It might have won more, and it beat out what I consider to be the greatest film of all time. It's a Wonderful Life. They went head to head, and it beat it. And you know what? I can't be upset.
I hear you.
I cannot be upset. That's
They came out the same year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wild.
Mm-hmm. But that just
So you can't be upset because you see It's a Wonderful Life in this movie
Mhm.
so closely.
they're about even. They're equal in my opinion.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's
Very
just,
very different movies.
I mean, they're both movies with a message. It's just this one's message hits a little hard.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's some supernatural, of course, in It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm.
With Clarence, and it is important messages in there about people and morality and kindness, but this one is more about there's just a you don't have to look for the message.
Right.
This one, like, it's the movie is the message. Like every movie, book, whatever it is, they're all preaching a sermon to you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, it's subliminal. Sometimes it's just like, the message might just be humor, like laughter, something like that. But this one, like, every scene was the message, every point.
And it
was
manages. It manages to teach to have so many messages, so many lessons, while all feeding into the same message.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating to me just how I've already used the word disconnect, but the disconnect they showed between these soldiers coming home and the men, the family members and just the friends that, all they knew was what, they were being told during the war. And a lot of the times, in order to keep up morale, the gristlier parts, like a lot of
Mm,
the war was sanitized for people back home.
sure.
Um, it's like one scene, this just popped into my head. When the airman comes in to his tiny little apartment and hangs up his uniform, and it's given this very final send off. This, okay, we're done, and his wife comes in, they talk, and she wants to go out and party, and then she goes, "Oh, well, can you wear your uniform? You look just so wonderful in it," and it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's seeing it aesthetically
Mhm.
and the glamorization that a lot of the films and the newsreels would give about how our boys are marching on, and kind of a uh, like you said, a sanitized version. And so oh, he looks like a hero. Meanwhile, he's been through this painstaking tragic. He's got the shell shock PTSD. He's trying to just recover. He doesn't really want to keep wearing something that was a harsh reality for him.
Mhm.
And for her, it's like, oh, that's a cool costume.
Yeah, I mean, to her, it's like, oh, I get to be on the arm of somebody in a uniform, and
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like, if it wasn't for the fact that, oh, the what the uniform represented, he would have taken it out back and we're pouring gasoline on this puppy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people do feel that way just because of the pain
Mm-hmm.
that went along with it.
Sort of. Sorry.
Not in a disrespectful way, but just in a moving forward way.
And then another way, because the movie does have some humor in it. It's not just a complete,
It does.
but another way, to sort of parallel that scene, and I absolutely adore this scene. I think it's the funniest scene in the whole movie. The army man, the soldier, when he wakes up that first morning back home,
Mm-hmm.
and he takes the army shoes, looks at them, drops them out the window.
Yeah. Dude, yeah.
Like I said, it's that whole, well, I don't have to see these anymore.
No, that's he wasn't like, I guess he was just like, okay, that I don't have to wear those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um I thought that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah, he didn't put them in the garbage or anything. He just walked over to the window.
Yeah.
It's it's funny and it's symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, he don't have to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I remember at the this is also me jumping tracks, but the Navy man with the prosthetic arms and his uncle
Mm-hmm.
owns a is it a club or a bar?
Bar, I think.
Yeah, bar. His uncle plays the piano.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're talking about how um unless there's another war, you won't have to worry about that. And if there's another war, none of us will be here anymore
Mm-hmm.
anyway. So 19, what year did you say this was? 46.
46.
So coming off the heels of the atomic bomb,
Mm-hmm.
this was another thing that the son talked to his dad about, the army man about, is that if we can't get along now that the nuclear bomb exists, um, yeah, another nuclear war. It's game over for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like that realization, they were talking about it then as it was happening. People were already concerned about that,
Mhm.
and they just mention it.
Yeah.
This movie certainly never shies away from anything.
Oh no, the movie is definitely like, oh, we're just going to cover this up. It's like, nope, nope.
No,
I think it's interesting, and again, it's been a hot minute since I've seen the movie, so maybe I'm forgetting. Maybe it just got lost in the shuffle of all the other scenes. We don't really get a scene of the Navy man, like symbolically or realistically, getting rid of anything related to the war, do we?
I don't think so.
And I think that's interesting because he's the one who, whether he means to be or not, he's sort of still hanging on to things, holding on to things. You know, the others, they've moved on, but his whole part of the film is him coming to grips with the fact that he's back home and that life can resume. The others are worried, you know, that they won't be able to resume their lives. He is almost pushing against it through the whole film.
Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying. They're all readjusting,
Mhm.
and the way that they have 3 different characters, 3 different lives was great. Um, all going through the same stuff but differently.
Mhm.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. He was kind of the most stuck there.
Right.
Um, and
Sorry.
and the others were working to they're like that happened. Let's cut it off the best we can. Let's get back to normal.
Mhm.
And I don't know if he thinks there's a way to get back to normal for a good bit of the movie, even though he's doing so well. Um, uh, you know, personally, he's doing okay with the prosthetic that he has now, the loss of his hands.
Mhm.
Um, when he has trouble is when other people don't do well with it.
Right.
And when he was talking to his uncle, he said it's the way that they look at his new hands or the
Mhm.
way they don't look at his new hands.
Mhm.
Like that piano scene, that hit hard because he mentioned that his dad was like lighting up his pipe, and it's like he realized that he had hands like his dad did, and he felt guilty about it, and so he like hid his hands
Mhm.
under his legs. It's like that's not the fault of the family. They're
No.
trying to get adjusted, but it also is so painful for the Navy man trying to just want everybody to treat him like nothing has happened. Fact is, something did happen, drastic, but he's just like he doesn't want to focus. He doesn't want anybody else to focus on that. Yeah.
And through the whole movie, he is so worried, you know, about being a burden to his family, to his girlfriend Wilma. You know, because she's trying to get him to let her into his life,
Yeah.
and he's pushing her away and pushing her away until it happens.
Yeah.
Theme.
Let's go there.
So, oh, again, you've seen it more recently. I just you take point because I can't talk about it without getting emotional.
That's all right. That's this movie, man. That's this movie.
Well, but before I'll tell one quick story and then I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, yeah.
I've told you this already. I sort of dropped hints about this. So the first time I watched it, I was at my parents' house. I want to say this was 2020. Um, and I was at home. I was sitting in their living room watching this movie at like 2 in the morning. Dad was at his computer doing work with his back turned to the screen, and I'm watching it. And I think I'm doing very good. I think I'm being very quiet. And all of a sudden, I hear Dad go, "Hey, Ellis, yeah, is the movie you're watching sad?" Yeah. How do you know? Because I can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, I've been crying
Uh,
so much of this scene, or at least sniffling. It was super audible.
yeah.
But yeah, I'll let you take point on the scene.
But so much so that he noticed.
Uh huh.
Yeah. Well, so there to preface it, there was a scene where um the airman after the fight um at the drugstore and he leaves, they walk out together. The airman says to the Navy man, he says, go ask her to marry you, get married, enjoy your life.